Good afternoon. Thank you for joining today's webinar, Closing the Gap, Strengthening Student Organizational Culture to Prevent High-Risk Behaviors. This presentation was one of your favorites from the 2025 Annual TACUSPA Conference. My name is Dr. Hilda Billups, and I currently serve as the Director of the Webinars Committee for TACUSPA. Allow me to introduce our speaker for today's webinar. Greely currently serves as the Associate Director of Student Organizations, Prevention, and Risk Education and Dean of Students at the University of Texas at Austin. In this role, she leads efforts to support student organizations through organizational development, risk reduction, and culture change to promote healthy and safe communities. She oversees the Successful Student Organizations Program, SSOP, which focuses on reducing potential high-risk behaviors by fostering positive organizational culture change among student groups. Through SSOP, Kion designs and delivers workshops, consultations, and strategic committee reviews that support culture change and sustainable organizational success. Kion earned her bachelor's degree from Texas A&M University and a master's degree from Concordia University, Austin. We are very thankful and excited to have Kion share with us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Billups, for that introduction. Thank you so much, everyone who's on the call today. And I'm excited to start our presentation and talk about our Successful Student Organizations program. So I really appreciate everyone being on the call today. Okay. Gonna make sure everything's good. Perfect. So again, thank you all for logging on today. Excited to share how the University of Texas at Austin has minimized high-risk behaviors and fostered positive organizational change among our student organizations through our Successful Student Organizations program, which I will be referring to as the SSOP throughout the presentation today. And the SSOP is actually now in its third year in operation. So really excited to talk about a lot of the growth and development of the program as it is now. Again, my name is Kayon Greely, serving as the Associate Director of Prevention and Risk Education at UT Austin. And in my role, our unit oversees safety education, hazing prevention for the institution, and manages the SSOP program, which I'll be talking about today. The following is a roadmap of what we will cover in our time today. I'm going to discuss a lot of the history and campus culture of student life and organizations at the University of Texas at Austin, what led to the development of the SSOP, how the SSOP was packaged and formulated to be delivered to our student groups on campus, how we identify achievement of learning outcomes, culture shifts, and operational growth through our post-survey assessments and evaluations. And then finally, for those on the call, what to consider when applying aspects of the SSOP to your institutions, and also next steps and goals that we have for the SSOP. So I'm going to get started with a little bit of campus and historical context. As many of you may know, the University of Texas at Austin is a large public university. We have over 55,000 students. And we're home to over 1,300 registered and sponsored student organizations. And these student organizations have different passionate areas, interests. These groups range from our academic and professional organizations to religious, recreational, spirit, and also our fraternity and sorority life organizations. Some groups of these organizations are closely connected to the university, while others operate more independently. Our sponsored organization actually function as an extension of our institution, sharing mission values, and then have staff oversight. Our registered student organizations actually have more autonomy and self-governance. Usually they are created and led by our student leaders on campus, though some may still receive support from our institution if they are part of structures like our business, engineering, law, and pharmacy schools, as well as our sorority and fraternity life groups. And I'll refer to sorority and fraternity life as SFL throughout the presentation. And as I share with you about our program today, I do want to acknowledge that every campus has distinct resources, cultures, capacities. So this program is definitely not an all or nothing model, but really an opportunity to spark some ideas with how you might approach organizational change and student behavior on your campus. And finally, I really want to emphasize that this program is built through collaborations, partnerships. We have a growing number of staff members who are really passionate about this work in student leadership development and culture change among organizations. Not one person can move this mountain alone, so success definitely depends on our partnerships. And I encourage you to think about throughout this presentation today who some of those collaborators may be on your campus who could support this student org development. Now going into the three main reasons on why we created the SSOP. The first being UT has long been invested in hazing prevention and risk management throughout our time here, but much of that work was really focused in the SFL community, which left a huge gap in support for our broader student population and organizations. The second one being our previous interventions following institutional rule violations, hazing violations. They weren't leading to meaningful change. Oftentimes, their sanctions were check the box agreements or one-off trainings or workshops, and they didn't address deep cultural issues like leadership gaps, lack of oversight, and organizations not fully understanding their values, their identity, and their role with the university. And then finally, between 2017 and 2019, we had a number of groups removed from campus at the same time. So this really pushed for change that needed to be made on campus. With support of our Dean of Students Office and in partnership with an outside consulting group, we developed the SSOP, which is the first of its kind in the country, which is why I'm excited to talk about how it's impacted our institution. But we created it to help foster accountability and then also help organizations make lasting, meaningful, sustainable change specifically surrounding hazing. Our office was also created around this time that the SSOP was created to lead not only that program, but also hazing prevention for the entire institution. The SSOP is built around 9 dimensions that I'll be talking about in the next few slides. It's delivered through workshops and trainings for student orgs that engage in the program. And these dimensions serve as a roadmap for these organizations. The dimensions help provide best practices while also addressing behaviors that often derail organizations from the course that they should be on, from their values, and then also help them further align with the university. Now we're going to move on to how we built this program. With the support of our outside consulting group that I mentioned previously, and those key campus partners came in, we worked with partners from our student conduct office, our SFL office, the Longhorn Wellness Center, and then also our Shift office. We officially launched the SSOP in 2023. And now that we're in our third year in the program, we've had 22 organizations engage participate in the program, which is a lot for our team, but it's great to see those partnerships evolve and students utilize more resources from the Dean of Students Office and really make that culture change and shifts in their operations. Our goal in the SSOP is truly to help foster a culture of accountability that helps organizations build and sustain their culture. And each dimension as part of the program helps establish clear learning outcomes and also accountability for these organizations. And most importantly, it's student-centered, which is a priority for our office. It prioritizes safety, well-being, and success, while also giving students that agency and that space to truly define their own culture and then expectations through intentional conversations. When they're engaging in these dimension workshops, it's not our staff members leading lectures and telling them what to do. It's more so we're coaching them, providing them opportunities on how they can improve their culture, improve their operations, improve their recruitment, but it's really up to those student leaders to really take and implement that change and then also have agency to really fill in the gaps where there is maybe some challenges or some questions about their true values and their identity. The program is also flexible. Organizations can complete all 9 dimensions in the program, or they can focus on specific dimensions. And I promise those dimensions are coming up soon so you all can see what they all look like. And the groups actually use this program to strengthen their daily operations, make proactive changes before discipline is needed, or rebuild their organization after previously being removed from campus. And overall, the program works to create sustainable, positive cultures and also reduce high risk behaviors like hazing across their organization. It's really important to share that this curriculum, the nine dimensions, is grounded in research, which includes the social identity theory, the social learning theory, and the social constructivism theory. All of these theories assert that group members are likely to engage in culture change when they understand and feel aligned with the group's goals and values, when leaders of these organizations are continuously modeling and upholding exemplary behaviors. That's why we talk to the leaders about a lot about the impact of their influence and their choices on their members. And then also, what these theories state is that when everyone understands their common cause in a way that links their individual identity to the group identity. So a lot of these theories are present in our curriculum and in our facilitation guides for these dimensions. What I think stands out the most, though, is the structure of the program is based on a change management model, the ADKAR change management model, which provides a model that emphasizes how changes affect individuals psychologically and emotionally. And each dimension is designed with the ADKAR change management model in mind, starting with awareness, as you can see on the screen on the image, an awareness piece within the dimensions. This is reflection opportunities. So all members understand the problems and the challenges that their organization is facing. Then we're going to move on to desire and knowledge. And these are educational and motivational interventions, which may look like workshops, trainings, coaching exercises to increase members' desire to commit to that change and their knowledge about why change is necessary. Then we're moving on to ability. These are structured documentation requirements, our deliverables, coaching and evaluation meetings, and also offering feedback. So these members are garnering that feedback and resources to make positive change. And then finally, reinforcement. This is ongoing evaluation and university connection. So members are motivated to reinforce change in the long term. So all of these deliverables are based on this model. So when students are moving from transitioning from one dimension to the next, they will model that change management model in each of these dimensions. Now on to our program design and delivery. So now that we're entering into our third year of the SSOP, we've engaged with 22 student organizations. As I mentioned before, out of those 22, 12 of those organizations have come from our SFL office. Six have been spirit organizations, and four have been our academic-based groups. And of those 22, there are different pathways of how students engage with the SSOP. Three of the 22 organizations have completed the program as part of a provisional return process. That means they've been previously removed from campus and now they're returning back on campus and completing the SSOP as part of their conduct sanction. Two of the 22 organizations have completed through our voluntary enrollment pathway. So these are student groups who want to join and see the benefits of the program, see the benefits of how it can improve culture, their operations, their membership, their events, their safety and risk management. So they're truly seeking to align best with the university. And 17 of the 22 have been organizations who've been sanctioned to participate following conduct violations. These groups represent a big majority of the organizations in the program, which is why we have a very strong partnership with our student conduct office. This spring, we actually have 8 organizations that are currently participating, which is the most in a single semester. And as this program has grown with the groups involved, it's also expanded our staff unit team. Previously, we had 2 full-time staff members. Now we've expanded to 3 full-time staff members, 2 graduate assistants, and 8 peer educators to really keep up with the capacity of the groups that are coming in this program. Now, I've been talking very high level, so I really want to walk through how the program actually works in practice and how groups are referred to us. So, part of that referral process is one of 3 pathways. The first one that I mentioned, a majority of groups participate in the SSOP because they are sanctioned to participate. These organizations have been found responsible for a policy violation through their student conduct process, and they must complete assigned dimensions that directly address their culture and also those conduct issues that they've experienced. And so these groups can be assigned all 9 dimensions or a few dimensions depending on that conduct violation. The second pathway being voluntary, these organizations are seeking to strengthen best practices and align with university expectations. And finally, we have our provisional return pathway. These organizations have been removed from campus for hazing or another serious behavior, and they're working to regain recognition back on campus. Once a group is referred to our program, our staff will then conduct an introductory SSOP kickoff meeting where we meet with the student leaders and an advisor, if they have an advisor guiding this organization, to review the SSOP curriculum, set expectations, explain the evaluation rubric, and answer any questions they may have. And most importantly, through these meetings, we want to come from a place of support and set the tone as they enter the program that we are here to support them, to work alongside them as they make those needed changes and develop into the best organization they can be. A lot of times that process may be intimidating for groups, especially if they are sanctioned groups, not really knowing what the vibe will be with working with our staff in this program, but we really want to come from a place of support, but also keeping them accountable. So when we feel like they are not meeting expectations, we'll have a coaching meeting or one-on-one to get them where they need to be and where they should be. Once we have that introductory meeting, they are now officially in the program and ready to start dimension work with the 9 dimensions program. And each dimension has a structure and a pattern which is consistent for all of them, starting with the pre-work, a workshop or presentation, and then followed up with written deliverables that are completed by those student leaders. That pre-work going into that workshop or the presentation would include them completing a survey, submitting organizational history questions, preparing for a presentation, or submitting governing documents that they have. And these are just to assist our facilitators for that incoming workshop to get some insight, some history about that organization, see what safety and risk management plans they may have, look at their hazing policies to really help equip them with some questions and some discussion topics that they can bring into that workshop space. Our workshops, they are led by facilitators from our SSOP facilitator team, and this includes staff from our wellness offices, SFL, student conduct, and our student involvement team. And in these sessions, they use research-based questions to foster reflection from the student groups that are participating, build community, and also set goals. We strive for this cross-campus facilitator approach. So it's not just our team or the SFL team where many of the organizations coming in, some may be from SFL. We try and get staff members from different areas on campus so students are exposed to a variety of perspectives, expertise, and able to also connect with key campus partners who hold resources that would be beneficial for those groups. So we really want to have different staff in the space to be able to give their own perspectives based on their offices. So that's why that partnership model is very key for us. Once the students complete that workshop experience, they are then required to complete a deliverable which will document takeaways, insight, feedback that is gained from that workshop experience. So I think what sets the SSOP apart from previous sanctions is that previously they would attend the workshop, the training, and that is it. They've done it. But now this is where that accountability piece comes in. We want to ensure that they are actually going to apply the learning outcomes that they learn from that workshop, apply that education to their operations. And so we want to ensure that it is documented. And then once it's documented in those deliverables, they're submitted to us, and we actually have our SSOP committee review that post-workshop deliverable against an evaluation rubric, which will be coming up in the presentation. And depending on the results of that evaluation rubric, organizations will either move forward if we feel like that document is efficient, they have a good rating, or if it's not quite meeting the bar, they'll be asked to revise their document or attend a coaching meeting, which we've had a few previously the past couple of weeks with student groups who we felt like their post-workshop deliverable did not contain a lot of the conversation or the action items from that workshop they participated in. Now we're on to the 9 dimensions that I've been talking about so frequently. Our 9 dimensions each address a distinct aspect of the holistic student org experience. I'm going to briefly overview all 9 and then dive deeper into the first 2 on the next slides. The first dimension, self-reflection, is required for all organizations engaging in the program as it serves as a foundation for upcoming dimensions, whether they are assigned or voluntary. This dimension focuses on this organization really understanding and acknowledging their past. It's encouraging open conversations with former members and advisors to reflect on why the organization was founded, its history, why they became a member of it. Emphasis on naming and taking ownership of past behaviors, challenges, infractions. So this is setting the groundwork for what they will be completing, experiencing in the next dimension. So whether a group is sanctioned or voluntary, they are always assigned self-reflection as part of their SSOP coursework. The second dimension is organizational identity. This is actually one of my favorites. It's actually the longest and most detailed dimension workshop. In this dimension workshop, they are redefining and clearly articulating their identity with a focus on purpose, values, characteristics, and expected behavioral competencies. This is then going to propel them to create operations, programs, events that align with their organizational identity. A lot of time we'll have discussions with groups who are considering which programs or events would be safe, would be healthy, and we always redirect them with, do these programs or events align with your identity? Do they align with your values? If your values are brotherhood or siblinghood or sisterhood, does this event that you all have done in the past, does it reflect those values? So that's always the focal point when they're thinking about things that they want to operate in the future. The next dimension would be dimension 3, fostering healthy and purposeful communities. We formulate this workshop in a facilitated community circle. In that circle, they're going to address culture change within the organization and have a discussion about how they support member well-being, mental health, and how they will work to maintain a healthy and successful community. Dimension 4 is anti-hazing culture. This is where we have a presentation and also a leadership conversation within this dimension workshop where the organization will identify and communicate a clear anti-hazing approach, then going on to develop an anti-hazing curriculum, new member training, and also talk about how to practice bystander intervention, direct and indirect ways to intervene or report, which is very critical, especially when it comes to hazing behaviors. They're also establishing accountability measures for members and officers and establishing reporting of hazing incidents in this dimension. Dimension 5, University Alignment, is actually a presentation for this dimension workshop in which the organization is reestablishing connections with the university, and they are going to present their history, their mission, their purpose to our SSOP committee and communicate how they are enhancing their organizational frameworks from their previous dimensions. So this is their first opportunity to prepare an overview of what they completed in the previous dimensions to then share with our SSOP staff committee. Dimension 6, safety and risk management. This is where the group is creating, implementing a comprehensive risk and safety plan with a reflection on past behaviors and then applying those improvements of past behaviors, mitigating risks into their future events and future new member processes. Dimension 7, also one of my favorite, is where the group will focus in on 6 key operational areas within the organization. And I think this is important not only with student organizations, but also in the workplace. Well, they'll make plans for their identity, membership education, community service, accountability, finances, and then establish a governance process for each of those areas. They'll talk about onboarding programs and then also oversight structure in those areas. So this is really setting them on the path to have those operational areas standardized and also efficient. So once these are created, when this group is transitioning to new officers for the next semester or the next year, they already have these operations in place that then they can put into action. The final actual dimension workshop, although there are 9 dimensions, the final dimension workshop that the student orgs will engage with is Dimension 8 Reemergence, which is a presentation where the organization will present again to our SSOP committee. And this is to prepare them for returning back to campus in good standing. And this presentation, the organization will create 30, 60, 90, and 180-day plans, which include recruitment strategies and member education. Once they are completed and approved to move forward after Dimension 8, they've graduated from the program. Dimension 9 is ongoing evaluation and university connection. So while this is not a workshop or a presentation, these are scheduled evaluations, checkpoints, engagement pieces where we can still stay connected to this group once they're complete with the program. And this is to support their long-term success, sustainability, and to ensure that they're still making ground, achieving those commitments that they've made throughout their time in the program. Now, focus here will be on Dimension 1, self-reflection. What you see on the slide is a question from our pre-assessment and post-evaluation forms that students engage with before and after the workshop. And these documents focus on the organization's history, purpose, and plans for changes. In this Dimension 1 workshop, which is required for all groups, the students are reflecting on their history, their purpose, and value to the university. And it's great to hear students reflect back on what drew them to joining this organization, how this organization has impacted their lives, how it's impacted their member lives, how their foreign connections. And I think this is really helpful with students when they've went through an infraction or a challenge or a conflict, really honing in on why they joined and are those characteristics, are those factors still present in the organization today? And if it's not, this is the time to make those changes. They're also going to discuss some past infractions that brought them to the SSOP and the impact it's had on members and the community. They'll explore some ways on how to cultivate a safer community, realign back with the university, and a lot of emphasis is placed on sharing that organizational history with members and preventing those past mistakes from repeating again. So once they're done with this dimension, the goal is with their future new member education cycles that they are talking about this past infraction so they are aware and so they know that these are the solutions, the plans that we've came up with to ensure that this does not repeat itself. Dimension 2 is again my favorite and one of the most detailed and impactful dimensions. The goal for the group in this space is to develop their org identity, which consists of characteristics, values, purpose, and behavioral competencies. And the pre-workshop going into this dimension workshops, all members are sent an anonymous survey from our team in which the members are describing how they see the organization's values, purpose, characteristics, and behaviors. So when they come to the workshop, they're going to have posters and place cards with up to 40 different statements or words that describe those four components of their identity. And those statements and words are all coming from the members within their organization. It's not something that we're providing for them because, again, they are having agency and ownership of their identity. So in this workshop, it's very highly engaging and interactive where members will then review the leaders of the organization and some members who are participating in that space. And I do want to mention as well during the workshop space, a lot of the organizations we have, they have up to like 200 or 300 members. So of course, we don't have the capacity or it wouldn't be very conducive or efficient to have a workshop, an engaging workshop with that many members. So in each of the Dimension workshops, our goal is to have around 12 to 14 members in each of those workshops. So we ask for the entire office or exec team, and then also for them to invite a few general members within that workshop space. So we want to make it small enough for us to really have deep conversations and moments of reflection. And then the intention is for those leaders in that space to then share back those gains, that growth, that conversation with the entire membership after that workshop. So again, this workshop is very highly interactive. They'll review those survey results, discuss, define their shared identity. A lot of times there's some debates, there's challenging on what their key identity core elements will be, but I think that's a great thing because this is setting the tone for their future operations membership and events that they'll have in this organization moving forward. And then also they're going to reflect on if they want to maintain or evolve past identity elements. Like that is up to them because a lot of times these groups are very tradition focused, but we let them know if there's something that's not resonating with your current processes now, it is okay to change. You're a leader in this organization for a reason. There's a group that we've worked with in the past. And one of their pillars was supporting the volleyball team. But after reviewing their operations, their calendars, their plans, I didn't see any volleyball games. So we talked about, is this a pillar that you all still want to keep, or do we want to have another focus area? So that's the peak of the conversation in a lot of those Dimension 2 workshops. Following the Dimension 2 workshop and the post workshops, the students will then submit an organizational identity workbook and that a page from that workbook is shown on the slide there. And that's where they incorporated the feedback from this dimension into this guidebook. And they're also drafting a vision statement within this guidebook as well. And we want them to use this guidebook in their new member education moving forward and also a document to transfer to new officers. So they're doing a lot of work in these dimension workshops, and the goal is for them to keep those documents and then pass it on to the next set of officers so they continue to maintain those commitments and the goals and those identity elements that they've worked so hard to create. Moving on to our evaluation rubric. This is what we use to assess student dimension deliverables. The rubric is also what sets SSOP apart from traditional sanctions in that we're ensuring students are actively engaging and working toward meaningful organizational change. So during the SSOP committee review, we're going to evaluate those post-workshop deliverables that they complete after each dimension workshop. And as seen on the slide, there's 5 key areas that evaluate the depth of change. So starting with compliance, which is the lowest rating, then it moves up to discovery, committed, champion, and innovation. We have not had a group receive an innovation rating yet because that is a perfect score essentially. But we do have groups who start maybe on that lower end because there's so much room for feedback and growth. And then as they continue throughout the program, they typically will end the program in their last assigned dimension in that committed or champion space. In our first year in the program, we focused on evaluating the need for change, setting goals and objectives, and understanding organizational impact in their campus and community. And for this current year, we've actually added an assessment for dimension-specific learning outcomes within the deliverables, and this has allowed us to provide a more tailored rating towards the goals of each dimension. And then finally, we've observed organizations again progress from initial compliance to commitment and then ultimately championing change. And this has been made possible by this evaluation rubric and also feedback that's provided by our committee after each dimension. And so we are doing what we can to set these students up for success. After reviewing their deliverable, they'll get their rating. And we also include some feedback bullet points on why we rated them at that level, and then also some areas of growth and improvement for them to also include within their operation. So if groups continue to make those changes based off our feedback, their score will then get higher as they progress through the program. In addition to the work that we do with the SSOP daily, our unit also promotes risk prevention and positive org culture through campus-wide programming and promoting our SSOP program through outreach on campus. We have 8 peer educators on our team who are amazing, and they assist with leading hazy prevention, safety education, and also SSOP outreach through events and tabling. They help us educate our students on campus on risk prevention and also building culture and belonging. They also assist with event support and planning for National Hazing Prevention Week, our hazing prevention workshops, and also facilitate one of our newest signature events, the Long-Term Playbook for Successful Student Organizations. And they are truly key to taking account of their student experience on campus and being able to apply that to help us plan events that students will actually want to go to, would want to engage with. So we really appreciate that student-centered perspective in our work. Our team also delivers with our SSOP outreach plans. We also deliver SSOP presentations to campus units. At UT, such as engineering and business, we've visited their spaces through their monthly student leadership meetings to talk about the SSOP and also add in some hazing prevention and risk management content there. And these efforts actually led to a voluntary organization coming in from the engineering school, which has been great. So we formulated some good partnerships, relationships with advisors in the engineering department, and they learned about this program, the benefits of the program, and so they referred one of their organizations to our unit. Moving on to our signature event, the long-term playbook for successful student organizations. We actually completed the second event this past September. And this event was created and designed to teach students strategies for leading safe, community-driven organizations. And this event also builds upon our newest partnership with UT Athletics. We actually had a keynote from the head women's basketball coach, Coach Vic Schaefer, which was amazing. He's led this 2 years in a row, and a lot of his speech was really inspiring students from a coaching perspective to use their influence to make a positive impact and also lead how to lead steps to lead a safe and healthy and active community amongst their members. This most recent year, we had 111 students from 54 different student organizations attend this year's events, which was a 13% increase from the previous year. So it really showed that there was a strong interest in safe and effective leadership among our students. So the plan is to keep this event going because I think that partnership with athletics is appealing to students. And we also want to ensure within that event space that we are also recognizing and celebrating them for taking on that role as a leader in a student organization. Now moving on to evaluation and impact. After student orgs complete their assigned dimensions, they'll receive a post-program survey to capture takeaways, feedback, learning outcomes achieved, and these surveys collect and assess their ability to identify changes made as a result of the curriculum. For that first year, the first year survey they went out to the first year of organizations that participated, we used a combination of scaled and open-ended questions. And the first distribution of post-survey feedback was sent out in May of 2024. We had 104 responses from students across 4 organizations, which represented about 30% of students participating in that first year in the program. And here are some findings of those survey results. On this graph, you'll see that 94 on the scale all the way to the right, 94.3% of students agreed or strongly agreed that they understood how their organization's past actions had impacted others. So this is represented in that dimension 1 self-reflection. And so here, taking accountability, acknowledging that those past incidents did have an impact on members and the community. So it's great that 94% of them agreed that they understood the impact there. Graph 2, you'll see 93.2% of students agreed or strongly agreed that their organization's purpose was clear to them. This is targeting Dimension 2 org identity, where they're then again establishing their purpose, values, characteristics, and behavior competencies. I think this is a great percentage. This shows that those leaders took back those components of the identity and then shared it back with their members. In graph 3, it will show that 95.5% of students believed or strongly believed that their engagement in the program strengthened their relationship with the university. This is one of the biggest goals for us in the program is them utilizing us as a resource, coming to us with any challenges or even to share successes that are going on. So we really want to keep that close connection. 94.3 agreed or strongly agreed that their organization valued their relationship with the university. And then I've seen in all 3 of the graphs that I showed, there was no significant difference between learning outcomes and then programmatic questions amongst all 4 of our participating organizations. And this truly showed that our program was consistently delivered, even when uniquely tailored for the organization's needs. And additionally, 86% of students agreed that they were able to manage the demand of the SSOP with their responsibilities as a student. One second. Okay. Okay. All this talking. Okay. Second year of the program. Wow, I sound like crazy right now. Hold on one second. Okay. Okay. And then second year, so we focused on specific learning outcomes we wanted to measure. So in the second year, which is last year, we had 51 students across two organizations that completed the program. So we did see a lower response this year, largely because some organizations were continuing an SSOP for this year, and because staff transitions meant fewer reminders went out. So that was definitely a learning lesson for us going into this current year. And so here's how students surveyed from that second year in the program. 96% of students understood how to create culture change. 96%, 0.8% of students understood healthy community practices. 95% know their role in promoting safety. 96% believe team building strengthens member bonds. And then 95% recognize their organization's impact on others. So these findings showed that organization members agreed with those core educational outcomes presented in the workshops and also the importance of building community and accountability amongst their members. Here are some other major takeaways from year two. Organizations experienced significant growth in their purpose and values. They had greater confidence in creating those healthy and purposeful communities. A sustainable risk management plan was created. Anti-hazing plans were implemented into operations, and then also enhanced strategic vision and long-term planning in their operations. So, what we learned from this, when asked one thing that students would change about the program in year one, 19% suggested reducing repetitive content. So that led to us rearranging the order of the dimensions for a more cohesive flow. So in the previous slide, I showed you the breakdown of the 9 dimensions. So that showed how it was changed based on student feedback. So we ended up moving healthy and purposeful communities up earlier, also anti-hazing culture up earlier based on that student feedback on those were coming a little bit later. 15% of students requested a greater variety of workshops, speakers, and interactions. So this led to us expanding our facilitator staff team by more staff from the policy office, our shift office, SFL, and also student activities. And then also some key learning that we learned that the committee approach works. We felt like that holistic support in various perspectives from the staff involved, from our wellness leadership and offices really strengthen those outcomes. The importance of celebrating students, really understanding their culture, what drives their membership, and really witnessing their growth has been really rewarding. We've helped organizations embrace us as a resource that they can share challenges, conflicts, successes with. And then also our SSP graduate assistant has been essential with project management and administrative tracking, distributing surveys. And so our graduate assistants have been very, very beneficial. So we're currently collecting data for year three, which will provide us with some greater insight into how changes were established for the year three experience. And then also want to keep note that we've made minor adjustments throughout the year. So this is not something where we wait to the end of the year to take in the feedback and insight. There are some changes that have to take place during the year, the academic year. For example, our voluntary group that I mentioned from engineering, they had a very distinct and unique risk for that organization because they drive the Formula F1 type cars. And so they had some workspace mechanical risks. And so this is very different from other groups that we've worked with. So we actually had to go in, our staff member went in and did some research on this group and actually helped really refine their facilitation guide and really change all of it. And so there's some times where we have to make some adjustment to the curriculum based on the organization groups that's actually coming in. And one major change that we made recently was changing that committee evaluation structure. Previously, we just had all of our committee members in the space to review deliverables for all of the organizations, but we we realized that that led to staff not having the capacity to keep up with all of the meeting spaces and then really not feeling familiar with some of the groups that we're viewing every time. So we then assign each staff member, we assign them to a group that's in the SSOP so that they could then follow that one group and evaluate that one group's deliverables. And so they could really track their history, their growth, and their development throughout the program. Okay, so now I want to share. I've been talking about this program so much, but I really want you all to hear from a student who actually participated in the program. This is Mitchell, and he was actually a part of the one of the first spirit groups that engaged with the program. And so we interviewed him. This is voluntary. So I was really happy that he gave his time. So I'm going to play some of this now.
I'm definitely proud to be a part of the first group that went through the Nine Dimensions of Successful Student Organization program. Just because one, it took a lot of commitment, and it was a lot. It was ton of hours, working with the university to ensure that this program is the best possible program for future organizations to go through and to learn from. And so, it was hard and it was challenging, but because of that, because of those long nights, together working with the university and like really committing to the Nine Dimensions, um, we created this incredibly strong bond among my class and like the first class back. So I know our class is extremely proud of the work we put in to ensure that Texas Cowboys and the Nine Dimensions are incredibly successful. And I would go so far to say that like the Nine Dimensions is probably the reason why my class is so close, and that we're going to have these like lifelong great bonds. And we didn't think of that's what it was going to be going into it, but looking back at it 6 months later, it was the Nine Dimensions was a huge part of like our relationships and how strong our bonds are now.
Okay, awesome. So Mitchell was really great to work with, and he was actually in charge of creating signature events for his organization. So really appreciate that he took the time. And that's what we hope for as organizations are completing this program, that they can look back on the experience and know that there were some quality changes that were made in their organization. And so now we're going to quickly talk about things to consider from this presentation on your campus. So really going to shift from more of a discussion to really reflecting here. So really encourage you to think about your own campus context as I walk through some of these prompts. When thinking about your student or culture, really consider what are some strengths of that culture. Is it highly engaging? Is it community oriented? Are they competitive? Is it value driven? And then alongside that, what are some persistent challenges that come up for student groups? Is there turnover instability? Are there risk concerns? Is there hazing culture? Is there leadership burnout, lack of accountability structures? Really understanding those strengths and weaknesses of student or culture, good and bad, will be essential to how a program like this could be delivered and structured. Second, think about how your institution supports organizations through key transition points, leadership transitions, moments of accountability, or even periods of rapid growth. Are your systems proactive or reactive? And is there a structured development pathway or support offered when needed? And then when considering the SSOP framework, which elements may feel transferable to your campus? Maybe it's the structured training module and where we're partnering with collaborative partners in different offices. Maybe it's an emphasis on prevention and culture building, or maybe it's that accountability development balance. So really think about what principles could strengthen your approach in student org development, who you could collaborate with. Partnership, again, is so important in this type of venture. Our student conduct offices, our SFL office, and student activities, and our wellness partners have really been strong collaborative teammates for us, where we can really bounce ideas off of each other. So I think really finding those key partners who are invested in this work and invested in student org development and culture change would be essential. So I really hope that you would consider some of those points to think about what accountability may look like. Future goals of the program, we want to continue refining and scaling the curriculum to meet evolving org needs and culture changes. We want to continue to expand that voluntary track for orgs on campus. We want to continue to build out our facilitator team. And then eventually down the line, make this curriculum available for other institutions. And finally, I have reached the end. Thank you all for your time. I have left my email there, so if there's any questions that you all have outside of this space, feel free to email me, schedule time to meet to further discuss the SSOP. So thank you all so much. And believe I can open up this space now if anyone has any questions. Well, thank y'all so much.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We want to know your thoughts. Please complete our feedback survey. The link is provided in the chat. If you are viewing the recording afterwards, the link will also be provided in the description of the video. Our next webinar Wednesday will be on next Wednesday, March 25th at noon. In this webinar, we're presenting another conference favorite, Thriving Through Transition, Advancing Personally and Professionally. Please invite a colleague to join us. Again, we'd like to thank you for joining us today. We also like to thank our fantastic presenter, Kayon, for her great presentation. Finally, the TCUSPA membership year runs from January to December. If you're not yet a member of TCUSPA, we encourage you to join us. Or if your institution does not yet have an institutional membership, please consider one. Thank you and have a great day. You did great.